Hello, everybody, and welcome to Co-Creation Station. This is the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina, and I am a transformational life coach, and I am in San Diego, California.
We want to thank you so much for listening or watching or both, however you're joining us today. We do want to let you know at the top of the pod that we often mention the names Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks here. If you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can find out more about them online by searching for Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks on YouTube on your favorite web browser, or you can go to their website, abraham-hicks.com. Each week, we start our discussion from a different jumping off point here on the podcast. And this week, I guess I had the jumping off point, which is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I actually put up a affirmation thing right above this computer screen that I record in front of. And it says, remember who you truly are. Because what I've come to understand, and I don't push this on anybody, but it's what I've come to understand, is that I am not only Collin, the co-host of Co-Creation Station. I am a spiritual being of divine energy that is connected to the universe in a very special way that everybody is. And because I'm connected to that, I'm connected to the power that creates everything. As Abraham on her workshops videos, she says, you're connected to the power that creates worlds. You know, the power that created the whole universe, all the galaxies. I just, as a side note, I found out this week that we used it for a long time. Astrophysicists estimated the number of galaxies in the universe in the billions, and they have now updated it to it's in the trillions. It's like something like 10,000 times what we thought was there before. And
and
every
we're
galaxy has.
most likely inaccurate even now.
Yeah, no, now they know. Now they know.
It's
Um
infinite.
yeah. But anyway, but I think it's really easy, even if you've come to an awareness, as I feel like I have, and I feel like as you have, Stephanie, that we are these like incredibly powerful beings. It's just really, it's like falling asleep or taking a drug that fogs up your mind. And like, I really think sometimes that I am the only thing I am is this human being named Collin, who's like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
all I've got is like my two arms, my two eyes, my two legs, my two ears, my brain, and that's it. And anything I got to do today, I got to make it all work out of that. And I'm already tired, so I'm screwed. You know,
Right. I
like
know.
that
So
sort of
like
thing.
throw up the hands and just go back to bed and put the
Yeah.
blankets over my head and say, "Fuck it."
And it's really helpful for me to remember that that is not who I am. It's who I appear to be. And we always go to my sister Kelly, who's been on this podcast and many times and who's a loyal listener. Don't fall for that appearance bullshit, like, but that's
Hi,
what
Kelly.
it appears that, I'm just a
Yeah. Yeah.
human man named Collin, you're just a human woman named Stephanie, and that's what appears. That's all we can like prove with visual evidence.
You know what I like using the analogy of, as far as like a knowingness is,
Mhm.
when we're here and I'm like, I've got my desk and, I'm in this house and, there's a neighbor next door.
Yeah.
And then when I'm up on a hill and I can see from the rooftops and I can see the multiple streets, I have a different view and perspective.
Yeah.
Then when I'm walking and I can see the hawks soaring
Hmm.
and their perspective.
Yeah.
And I think of all the multiple ways that people can intersect and things, and it's so big. And when I go up on the hilltop, and then I can see the ocean and the bay and the mountains, and I think of all the people, and then I think of myself being down there, and
Hmm.
that all I can see is my little circle of whatever's going on. And
Yeah.
and I feel like that is just a small picture of what you're speaking of. Like
Yeah.
here I am, human Stephanie,
Yeah.
But then for me, and this has happened over time that I've come to realize I have this inner being
Mm.
that is who I really am. And I was projected into this human body and I'm now living this life. But my inner being is also experiencing everything that I am now and is also experiencing everything that I've asked for. Because when it is asked, it is like I heard one the other day, they're like, Esther can't even, with her humanness, um make the same how fast it is. She's like, even that's too slow. That's it happens so quickly, you know?
Yeah.
And it when I think of that, I'm in awe.
Mm.
And I'm not always in that state, but whenever I am, I'm just like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have the other thing about that is that we have this cultural thing where there's like there are people on earth who are geniuses and super amazing at something. You know, when you look at like Beethoven or Mozart or whoever your favorite musical artist is who you think is a genius. But it can also be like extreme athletes. Like I think of the guy who, you know, jumped from outer space and then landed on the earth. Like that, those are the only people that can do amazing things. Those are the only people that have any kind of access to like really awesome power. And it's like, no, we're all connected to that. You may not be a skydiver, you may not be a musician, but you have the access to the same magic that Mozart had, that Beethoven had, that guy that jumps from outer space has. Like and you may manifest it in a very different way. You may do things that look very different with your life, but there's no limit on the access to that magic. And it's like you say, it's like we get caught up in this little thing of like, oh, it's all up to me, it's all up to me, I have to do it all by myself. And that's just like never true. And as you say,
That
when
is
we I and this is something I learned from Abraham, and it makes total sense now, but at first it was very challenging for me to understand and really grasp, which is that we don't have to work to manifest something into our life. Like literally, we're so infinitely powerful, and our inner being is so powerful and connected to the overall power that is so powerful, that when we have a desire for something that pops up inside us somehow, there's a place which we call the vortex, which is not in physical reality, but that thing is already there. So the work, if you
it's
want to
already
call it,
done. It's already
it's
done.
yeah, but the thing is, what people get hung up on is, well, why isn't it here? Why isn't it manifested? Why isn't it in my life today? Why don't I have the money? Why don't I have the new car? Why don't I
And
have
that's why,
my
that's the resistance right there. Well, how? It's not here. That's all resistance. Where if it was like, oh, it's already done. Let me just go and do my day. It's going to
yeah,
show up.
yeah,
It'll be here eventually.
yeah. Which is how, if you think about it, like the planets don't have to think about like, well, how do we make sure we keep spinning perfectly so that the solar system stays in balance? It's like
We don't
they
do
just
any of
do.
that.
Yeah,
We don't
they
do
just
any
do.
of that.
You
Like
don't
the
have to think
sun,
about how
yeah.
how am I going to make sure I grow my fingernails today to the exact proper length, so that like you don't have to worry. How do I make sure I keep breathing today? I'm gonna have to like
We don't
focus
do
on
any
breathing
of
all day
that.
today. Yeah,
And yet and these other things that we're speaking of, like, oh, how do I get my next coaching client? Or, how do I pick the winning scratcher that gives me a $250,000 payoff? I don't know. And I don't have to know. All I need to do is attract it. Like we were talking about in last week's episode, go watch the train, go bask at the beauty of the sunset. Go, while you're working, listen to music that you love. Appreciate those awesome clients that you're working with right now. Love on your puppy dog if you have one, or your partner, or whatever. Just feel appreciation for what is, and that is going to allow the universe to do all the heavy lifting, and I'll attract those things into my life.
yeah. And then I think the challenging thing for me and for just a lot of people is at least American culture in the 21st century, and that's everything I got raised with and educated with, is that that's the opposite of the truth. Is that there is no such thing as magic. There's no such thing as a universe who brings you stuff. There's no such thing as the law of attraction. It's just like you, like if you want money, you have to go get a job, and the
And
job you will do the work.
thank God a lot of people didn't listen to that. Because
Yeah,
when you said magic, I thought of Walt Disney.
yeah,
Just think if he hadn't have believed in the magic,
yeah,
we wouldn't. I've enjoyed Disneyland in Anaheim, California, most of my life. I've
yeah.
been there like,
Well,
I
the
don't
other
know.
thing is, if you take those things to their logical extent too, they don't make any sense. It's like if you take, like, I'm just pulling this out of thin air, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Like, really, Beethoven just worked really hard. Like, the reason that he created that beautiful piece of music is because he worked so hard at it. The whole reason is because he worked so hard. And if you ask people that, it's like, oh well, no, well, he had talent. And it's like, well, what's talent then? It's like, well, it's just something he was born with. Okay, so you're saying there's something that he didn't have to work for. Like, I'm understanding he worked really hard at learning music. He worked hard every day as a composer. But you're saying the reason he created the Fifth Symphony is something that can't be, is just something in him that's just inherent. And it's like, oh well, yeah, well, that's talent. Some people have that and some don't. It's like, that's not
And
true.
I think that's why, Abraham talks a lot, like this is the leading edge. The masses are not here. The masses are not thinking this
Well,
way.
can you, for our listeners and viewers who don't know what that means, what is the leading edge?
I don't even know that I can really describe it. I think the leading edge is like this leading edge of thought. Like everything that we've been speaking about is like there is something bigger than us that is working on our behalf. And
Mm,
these thoughts are the extension, like the next thing that'll occur.
mm,
Like, like Walt Disney at his time when he was living was on the leading edge.
mm,
He was taking thought beyond what it was in that
mm.
era. And so what we talk about here is the art of allowing, which is working with the law of attraction. And this is leading edge thought. Like so many of the masses are not thinking this way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the perfect way to explain it either. I'm sure Abraham does at some point, but yeah, I think for me, like the leading edge means those folks who are currently manifesting things that have never been before, and the folks that are not on the leading edge, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad people or lesser valued people or whatever, but it's just that they are stuck to an extent, focusing on the present and just repeatedly generating more of
Yeah.
what they have in the
Yeah.
present, things that already are,
Regurgitating. Yeah.
things that already are.
Regurgitating.
And
Yeah.
like your thing about Walt Disney World and and Disneyland is those things had never existed before. We had amusement parks, but we never had things on the scale and the depth and the detail of what he had in mind and then what he brought into
And
existence.
think about it, anyone. I mean, even, the Wright brothers who flew, all these
Yeah,
different engineering, everything. Um,
I love Wayne Dyer's quote. Sorry, I just
yeah,
interject this of
absolutely.
like a flight was not invented by people contemplating the staying on the ground of things.
Well, and it goes back to what you had said in last week's episode about no, I'll see it when I believe it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Where a lot of people are like, well,
yeah. You
I'll
have to prove
believe
it
it
to
when I
me.
see it. And
Yeah,
it's like, no, it's the reverse.
yeah.
And that's the practicing of that. Like, oh, okay, let me practice this thought of, like I've said, we've been reminded by Sarah, thank you, Sarah, that, we both have relationships that we really, romantic partners that we really enjoy. Just
Mhm.
because I can't see it like I see this pad of paper doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah.
I get
Well, that,
indicators all the time that it's
yeah.
done. And when I think that thought, like, oh yeah, I have a boyfriend, that makes me really happy. And so that means that thought is in alignment with my inner being.
Mhm.
My inner being knows that I'm in a relationship that I really enjoy.
It reminds me of that quote too from Colette Baron Reed, who's designed a lot of the oracle cards that I
Yeah.
use and is a medium also. Her thing about like 90% of what's going on is unseen. Like what we're seeing is like,
That is so
2%.
mind-blowing to
Yeah,
me, and it's so true. I
yeah,
love when I hear that because it's like, oh, dang. it. Just
Yeah.
like what I was saying last week about how, when I'm sitting here and I'm looking around me, that's my limited thinking. That's the most I can see.
Yeah.
But when I'm up on a hillside and I'm looking around me, I can see my view is a lot bigger. And
Yeah.
all that's there when I'm sitting here in this chair, I just
Yeah.
can't see it from where I'm at.
Yeah.
And when that hawk is circling up in the sky, that hawk's view is magnificent. Just like when I'm sitting up on the hilltop and I can see everything below me. And that's just a tiny speck
Yeah.
of what's on this earth. And we didn't even go into like the planets and the universe and we didn't even know. Like I love when Abraham says, we could tell you things that you couldn't even comprehend.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that human beings, at least my experience is, we have to be able to make sense of things. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things that we do in life where we take shortcuts, and some of them are necessary. Like if you have a job in a big company, you can't meet everybody that works in the company and get to know their entire life story. There's some people you're going to pass in the hall and go, that's Jack, and he's in IT and he works on the third floor, and that's all I'm going to know about that dude. Like I'm never going to like meet his family, whatever. So I understand that. So sometimes shortcuts are helpful like that. It's just like it's not bad, good or bad. It's just like something we need to get through our day. But there are times though when we have, and I feel like that's how this whole culture of like, I've complained to you before about like just there's so much in American like television, especially in books and things, self help motivational stuff where it's just like, um, you have to. It's hard work is the only way anything you receive anything. Like everything comes from hard work,
And
every single
that's
thing.
so
And it's like
ridiculous because
it's so patently, obviously false, but it's so prevalent, and so many people believe it. Like they believe the sky is blue. It's mind-boggling.
well, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier. There are certain things that we don't that we just take we just say them and we take them because we've said them over and over
Over
again.
and
We've
over
heard
again.
them
Yeah,
and we don't even question them,
yeah,
even though if we were to, it's not logical.
yeah,
And then there's other things where, well, I don't believe that because I can't see it, or that's not true. That's ridiculous. And it's like,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
there's a lot of things that we just take for granted or we just assume, and they're actually ridiculous when we look at them.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and there's another trap too that I think people fall into with that hard work thing, which is there are people who I'm just gonna pull this out of the thin air, just because I saw one episode of a show on the Oprah Network about him, and it's a good example. John Bon Jovi, the musician.
Yeah.
So he became wildly famous, wildly successful, very wealthy. Still is wildly popular. Actually, like decades after his initial success, still touring the world, still making tons of money. Um, Now, he work hard? Yes, we can confirm that. If you watch interviews with him, he worked hard to become a good musician. He worked hard gigging around New Jersey. He worked hard on tour before they became, wildly successful. So yes, was hard work involved? Was it part of the process? Absolutely. But if you look at Bon Jovi's success and you say, "Oh, the only reason that John Bon Jovi got successful is because he has a talent that nobody else has any access to, even though we know there's a billion talented musicians in the world. We're going to say he's unique in that way, and also the hard work. So it's this unique talent that only John Bon Jovi and nobody else can have, and then just tons and tons of hard work. If you as a musician say, well, I'm just going to put in tons and tons of hard work and I'm going to get the exact same result as John Bon Jovi, you've got a big problem because John Bon Jovi loved playing music and allowed that in. Like whatever his vibration was, he allowed it in. Was the hard work part of it? Yes, absolutely. But it was not the main thing that unlocked that amount of success, wealth, fame, all that sort of stuff. That was his vibration. And if you're a musician You can be just as talented. You're not talented like Bon Jovi, but let's say you have your own amazing talent that you believe in.
There are so many talented people who are not famous, and
My God.
so many famous people who are not talented.
Right.
So
I
it
mean,
has
absolutely. I
nothing
was
to
just thinking the other
do
day, I have two
with
people in my life. I'm gonna protect the I'm gonna keep names
anonymity.
out of it to protect the guilty. But I have two people in my life, 100% could be on Saturday Night Live. 100%. Like they are as funny or funnier. And I have tremendous respect for all. I mean, I consider the Saturday Night Live comedians some of the best comedians in the world. I'm not dissing them. But I have two friends that literally breathe words that are just like all day long. They're just hilarious. Like you can't be around them and
Do I
not
know either one
funny.
of them?
No, I don't think you've
Okay,
met them.
okay. I was like, oh,
But
I want to hang out with them for a half hour.
you do because you will laugh constantly, which is what And the thing is, it's like, yeah,
And
like
laughing is an awesome thing to do to feel good
yeah,
and attract cool
yeah.
stuff.
But to go back a little bit to the thing I was saying about Bon Jovi is like, if I'm a musician and even if I believe in my talent and I work really hard, if my vibration is negative, if
It's
it's
so
if
subtle,
it's yeah,
or just those thoughts.
yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's taking too long. I'm not as good as they are. Mer, 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 mer.
I mean, I
All
have
of
to
those
say,
are resistant thoughts.
yeah. I When I was in New York and I had my band Victor Bravo, we would just bump into one band after another that they would have something really good happen. I'll never forget this one band called Raina Maria. I think they're from North Carolina, and I love them. They were amazing. And like they made a music video, and it was on VH1. So it was like this big deal
Wow.
that like they went from like just they were touring and stuff, and they had they probably pull somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 fans per show, which is a certain level of success.
Yeah, that is definitely successful.
But then they get this music video on a national cable channel, whatever. They broke up
Wow.
immediately after that, and I just was
Mm.
like, yeah, that tracks, like because if you believe that you're not going to make it, we talked about this before, I think in friend time, like, and then an indicator of your success comes, you'll be like, oh, okay,
Or they're not down for that. Some
right,
people are just not down for that.
yeah. But I mean, everybody. I mean, this is my thing about musicians, though. Like every now and then, somebody will say to me, they're a musician, they're in a band. They'll be like, "Yeah, I don't want to be big and rich and famous or anything. I just want to play my music." And I'm like, "Horseshit, absolute horseshit." It doesn't mean they haven't thought it through, and that part of them really doesn't want it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I know there's a 5-year-old in them that
Mm,
saw a big band on TV or went to a
mm,
concert and was like,
yeah,
I want to do that. So, and the
yeah,
problem is if you have that in there, you don't acknowledge it and you're just shoving it down,
mm,
that's going to fuck you as you go through your journey because you're going to be in natural resistance to what you're actually
mm.
going for, you know?
Well, and that's why I liked the tapping because it brings up all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I get to see it. And then I get to tap through it and get neutral about it, which is so the art of allowing. It's just like, whatever.
So for people that have never heard of tapping or don't know what it is,
Emotional freedom technique. And it's tapping on the meridian points in our body. And it's connected to our nerve endings, and our emotions are connected to our
yeah.
bending. So it helps soften the resistance.
Which I think is super helpful because like that thing, if you're, and again, we're just using these examples, but if you're a musician and deep down you really want to be a big rock star and be famous and rich and all that, but you also have this belief of like, oh, not me, it can't ever happen, and you're unaware that you have both of those things. Those are the things that are determining what your life is actually happening, what's
Because
going
it's
on.
vibration, right? I
Yeah.
have this vibration
The
of,
tapping, well, I mean, one thing of like when you've coached me through the tapping exercise, I mean, the one thing you have to kind of do first is identify, when you think about this thing, like when you think about your music career as an example, what's the thoughts that come up and like really go in your mind and be like, what's the sentence that comes up?
yeah, that
And usually
opening
it's something
statement.
like, I'll never be good enough to be super successful as whatever,
Yeah,
that could
yeah,
be, I'll never be attractive enough to meet the person of my dream, like all that,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And that's the thing that's helpful for me about the tapping, in addition to, the actual exercise helps you massage yourself out of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But it's also like a lot of us don't even, until we do something like that where we have to identify what it is, we don't
Yeah.
even know we have. That's the thing. I mean, not to criticize these musicians I've met, but the person who's like, oh, I don't want to be big and rich and famous, it's like you have two things going on that you don't know about, and those two things are determining what's happening. And you're going through thinking your little, what you tell people like, oh, we're okay not being famous, it's like you're not okay with it and you want to be. It's like,
I want to say, I'm going to give out a shout out for EFT right now, emotional freedom technique, because we did a session around or two with you a few weeks ago on dating. And
true.
then you told me in friend time
I
that
had
you,
a successful date. Yes.
yes. So
Yes.
holla, yes. And you're very welcome, Collin, and the
Thank
woman
you.
that you spent time with the other day.
Thank you.
Yeah. So,
No, it's absolutely true. It's
yeah,
absolutely true.
I
Yeah,
know.
You're right. I
I
had a
thought about
very,
that when we were in the episode. Do I say something? Do I?
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna say something.
No, you're right. And this is really good that we talk about this. Not just because I love talking about my love life on here, because I definitely don't. But like back when we did that tapping exercise, and you can go back, whatever that is, 4 episodes, and hear
I
them
don't
for
even think it
a
was
minute.
that many. There were two.
Yeah.
I loved the first one. That was a great one. I've listened to that one several times. I should know what the episode number is. My apologies. And
But I
then the
mean,
one after that was where you actually did the tapping.
yeah, the week we did the tapping, like not only did I have a very strong vibration that was, um, I actually did write it down, but it was something like it's too hard to find somebody who's compatible and local or something. It was very
Yes.
pretty simple actually.
Yeah.
And I remember not only believing that,
Hmm.
like I think it was a 9 or a 10 to start, but also believing that it was going to be really hard to shift that.
Hmm. Oh, you were like, I don't like tapping. And I'm like, I just
Yeah,
laugh because I'm like, yeah, most of my clients don't, but I just keep
and
bringing it up.
we're literally just a few weeks past that. And yeah, this past
I
Wednesday,
literally think it was
yeah,
probably 2 weeks at the most.
yeah. So this past Wednesday, I had a date that went really well. And yeah,
Yeah.
and now it seems, now what I believed like 100% when we started the tapping, or
Yeah.
99%,
Hmm.
seems silly to me.
Right. And you can't
Which,
even really relate to it, right?
right, and
Yeah.
that all that means is that the only thing that changed there was what was in my mind.
Yep.
My inner being knew it was silly when we did the tapping exercise. So the tapping
Uh,
exercise is just to get my mind with a lot of programmed negative crap in it to line up with my inner
exactly.
being.
And that's what we're talking about, like with the writing, future as
Yeah,
present, that is, helping us get into an alignment which is already what's already in our vortex, which is, because what we're living now is past tense. And
yeah.
so what's in the vortex is. And so all these things, the scripting, the tapping, the, having fun with whomever, the laughing, you name it, taking a nap, all of that is allowing, getting us into a state of being in vibrational harmony with everything that is in our vortex.
I'm trying to find in my scripting journal here what I wrote, because you and I had a conversation about, do we want to use the scripting on, how many people watch and listen
View?
to the
Oh yeah.
podcast.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And it was so funny because I was like, do you think, do you want us to get like more viewers and listeners? And you were like,
I was
hell
like,
yeah,
yes.
I do.
And I thought that was so cute. You were like, oh, I just want to make sure like we're on the same page here. And I'm like, yes. Well,
Yeah.
because you were
So
showing me your vision board.
yeah,
You
yeah,
had created a vision board and it
yeah. And I,
had co-creation station on there with
yeah,
like, I don't know if it was 10,000 views or 10,000. It was something. And I'm like, that's super cool. I like that.
yeah. Yeah, and I just pulled random. Yeah, I just pulled like I just selected a random video that had thousands of views, and I just put it on my vision board because I didn't know. I mean, I think I have a lot of resistance around things like. I mean, obviously, it's affected my music career as well. It's like I think I have limiting beliefs around like how many people will be interested in stuff I create. Which again, all up here,
Yeah, I
not true at
know.
all.
Mhm.
but I believe it, so I'm manifesting it for now.
Yeah.
But I did. So we did say that we wanted to use scripting to get more listens and views, really as a way for us to have more fun with more people and for more people to be helped. I think
Right.
that's genuinely what we're just trying to do.
And we do like to see the numbers. I mean, come on, let's be honest here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the healthy, because I mean that's the thing. There's definitely an unhealthy thing for me in the numbers. That's like part of my my older struggles with self-esteem, wanting the numbers to make me feel better about myself as a person. So I'm very cautious about that. That's why I was
Mhm.
like, I don't even know if I want us to get 1,000 views on YouTube, because I don't know if that, at first I didn't know if that was, is that me really wanting to help more people and have more fun and be appreciated more, which I think appreciation is fine, or is that my ego and my will and my beliefs saying, well, I need numbers to feel validated as a person, because I feel like I'm not doing that crap anymore.
Mhm.
um, but I think, yeah, you're right. I think it's not just helping, it is helping people and it is having fun with people, but I think it does also like appreciation. It shows that the magic that you and I do every Monday morning for people is getting a response. And I think there's a healthy thing about that, that's completely fine to go after. So what I put in, because but we did say though that we should sort of do that thing about starting with a cup of coffee, like that method.
Yes,
Because
yes.
if you and I are both like, we want a video with 1 million views,
Yeah.
it's like,
Nope.
too, it's not too big for our inner being. It's definitely
Yeah,
not too big for the universe,
yeah.
but it's too big for our current beliefs.
Right,
We have
exactly.
to tap our ways out of that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we
Yeah,
said 50, and I wanted to be a little more specific because it's like, well, we could take 10 years and get 50 views, which we've already done
yeah.
on a particular episode. In fact, our first episode has hundreds of
Yeah,
views.
it does. Yeah. And it hasn't been 10 years. It's been what,
Yeah.
3?
So what I wrote down, and this was, I think I wrote it on multiple days, but I wrote it on Monday, January 15th, 2024. Today, the day we're recording this is Sunday, January 28th, and I think you're going to be hearing this in a week or two if you're or watching it.
2
Um,
weeks.
but what
Yeah.
I wrote is, I
One
want the
week.
video. Well, I'll go to the knowings. I know that the season 7, episode 12 of the Co-Creation Station podcast will have 50 views or more on YouTube by January 31st, 2024. So next week, I'm not going to check today because I can feel the resistance in me, but I am going to check after. We'll check on February 1st, and then when we record next week,
Okay.
we'll report the results. And you can help us by helping us
Uh,
allow in
I
more.
know one of them I added to. I don't think it was 12. I think it was 11. So I think 11 is the one where we had decided, okay, the next episode we're going to do the tapping on the
Mhm.
dating stuff. So,
Yeah.
but that was I loved episode season 7, episode 11. I hope I'm correct in that. But
Oh,
yeah.
so you had episode 11 is the one that is going to have
I
50?
was just saying that that is the one when I listened to it because Sarah said that was a great episode. And I'm like, oh, let me check it out. And then I listened, I'm like, oh my God, that was so good. And then I listened to it multiple times. I think part of the reason why I loved it is because I talked about the David energy and the Ben energy and my
Mhm.
experience at the resort that day as I was leaving, meeting that the bellman named Ben, and then just being reminded of like, yeah, it's done, girl. Like, chill out. You're on your way.
So I said episode 11. I said episode 12. You said episode 11. So we'll see if we could both
I'm
manifest.
just saying that I love that one.
Yeah.
And I've added to it because I've listened to it multiple times on the podcast.
Yeah.
But that's all I'm saying is that I really
Cool.
like 11. So,
Well,
but
we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Uh, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy that you were here with us. Remember that at this point in February, well, for you, it's now February 2024. We're posting a brand new episode for you every single Monday morning. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support us and help other people find us. All our social media links and our email address are down in the doodly-doo of the description of the YouTube version of this episode. You can also find our Patreon link there. If you click on the Patreon link, it's a really cool and fun way to just donate a little bit every month to help support the podcast financially. We'd be very grateful to you if you do that. And we want to wish you a happy and abundant week. And we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.